Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Masechtas Kiddushin daf Samach Beis. We're going to begin on Samach Beis Amud Aleph, the fourth line from the top. So we were discussing in the previous Mishnah whether or not there's a requirement of a Tanai Kafel, which basically means that you have to, whenever you make a condition, you have to say the positive, and then you have to say if it doesn't work out, then the opposite will happen. So it's actually a machlokus. Now, Bishlam Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, who says it's not necessary, that's why it says Imo shachav ish oisach. Does if a person did not lie down with you, Vimlo satis, and if you were not like a sota, then tomatachas sheikh of being impure, then hinaki, then you'll be clean. El Rameir chinki meboile. It should say that there's an element of chenek, which is the notion of a punishment, of a death penalty, in order for it to be a negative, for it to be a tanai kafel, for it to work. So obviously it shows it's not necessary. Some Rav Tanachan actually hinaki ksiv. Hinaki ksiv. And there's a little asterisk over here to tell you that, look in Rashi, below yud, without a yud. And why is it without a yud? It's lemidrashe. It comes to teach us a drasha, as it says, nami midrash ashvua kamaisa. The way it's written, the drush is on the original shvua. Okay. So Bishlam Rameir Hanadachsev Hinaki. That's the reason why it said it without a vav. El Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel Lamali. Why does it have to be written that way? It must be coming to tell us again on the requirement of Tanai Kafel. No, Itzrach. Sangat Chamina Imo Shachavish Hinaki. Vim Lo Shachav Lo Hinaki V'Lo Chinki El Isur Ba'alma Kamash V'Lon. So maybe it's in order to tell you, if you do the right thing, then you'll be clean. If not, nothing's going to happen. Nothing good, not bad. And that's why over here actually is the notion of a Tanai Kafel, that there is Chinki. So Bishlam Rab Meir, who requires a Tanai Kafel, Hainu Nechsiv, is the reason why the pasuk says, "Hu yischata bo b'yom hashish v'yom hashvi yitar, v'im lo yischata v'goymer b'yom hashish v'yom hashvi lo yitar." So this is brought down in Parshas Chukas, which seems pretty clear. Why does the pasuk have to repeat it in a negative? Must be it's required. Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, Lomli, why? So you would think because the mitzvah of being sprinkled upon has to be done on either the third day, actually both, on the third day and on the seventh day. However, maybe if as long as you did one, that would be enough. No, you need to have to do it both, because if you did, it's not do it 3 or 7. But saying no, if you did not do it on both of those days, then it doesn't work. The Hiza Torah Tam, which is question 9. The Hiza Torah Tam b'yom hashvi. So why does I have to say that? The third day is a muti sheni. Shvi is a muti shishi. You can't sprinkle on the second and the 6th days. The might be made tahara, because you're minimizing the days. Let's say you did it on the 3rd and the 8th. The kamapish b'mei tahara. So over here you're increasing. Emashaper kamash malon. L'chita b'yom hashvi ulamli. Yisrach ta'amina hanimili l'kadashim. Maybe it's only when it comes to be able to eat kadshim. Of a truma b'chad nami sagya, to be able to eat truma, maybe only one zrika is enough. Kamash malon, you need to do both. Question TB 30. Behiza tar halatami mashishvim shvi. Mahadin behiza sheni v'shishi. So as we know, that's not going to work. Umahadin b'shlishi ushmini. It's also not going to work. It's also puzzle. And he says Umahadin b'revi v'shmini. How about days 4 and 8? So this is actually interesting. Revi ushmini is actually kosher, as we're going to see that in Rashi in a second. TB 30. Because you're actually doing it in the intervals of days 3 and 7, but instead you just push it off 4 and 8. So there's still a 4-day gap in between. And therefore, that actually will work. If we look in Rashi, Lamuti shishi shall richi kazasamutai Aval heicha de avad b'shlishi shmini de koma p'shmimi tahara ema shabradami v'loy gurs b'reviu shmini. Rashi says we're not gurs the 4th and the 8th day. The havadi shabradami, that actually would work. The choma shemashe hazar rishayna in bekach kum. As long as it's like a similar gap in time. As long as you don't do more or less. Biyamim shebein hazol hazah, between the first and the second sprinkling. So between days 3 and 7 is 4 days. So between 4 and 8 is also 4 days. And actually that would, interestingly enough, according to the way Rashi says it pretty clearly, that works. That would be kosher. Okay. So we don't have any conclusive proof, but generally speaking, we do hold the requirement of Tanai Kafel. Let's see the next mission. It says the Masnisin of a Kaddish as a Isha. First, and marries a woman. The Oimer, and he says, Kasever Hayisi Shehi Kohenes. Vahari Hilavia. I really was only intending to marry her. I already married her, but now that I did Kiddushin, I was thinking that she was a Kohenes, and now I realize she's a Levia. Or Levia Vahari Kohenes. You thought she was an Aniyah Vahari Ashira, she was really rich. Or Ashira Vahari Aniyah, she was really poor. Harizim Kadeshes. It's still a good Kiddushin, Mimnei Shalo Hitaso, because she didn't trick you, you deceived yourself, and therefore that's not considered to be an issue. And since you went through the correct actions of doing everything right, therefore the din is that it's a good Kiddushin. However, you may not have a good relationship, but it's a good Kiddushin. Marry me after you convert or after I convert, after you become freed or after I become free, after your husband dies. We're going to focus on that in a moment. After your sister dies, which apparently you were married to the sister, and now when she dies, you can marry her. After the chalitza was done, and mikadeshes. All these things don't work, says Rashi. These are things that are not happening, not capable now. It's not in your hands to do. Since it's not in your hands now to be Mekadesher, so it's not going to work. Okay, afterwards, once these things happen, then you can be Mekadesher, but you can't do it now. It doesn't work. Okay. Fine. Furthermore, if you go up to a person, and let's hope this guy's, he's 13, all right? And he says, I know that there's a woman who's pregnant, and I want to be Mekadesh, the Uber Shiva Meyeha, the fetus inside of her. So the din is, it's not a good Kiddushin. In parentheses says, but let's say she was actually pregnant, for hooker ubara, and you could actually, it was hooker uber, which usually means that she's in her second trimester, devar kayam, and that actually would work. The yolda nekevim kadeshes, and obviously if it's a girl, it's a good Kiddushin. Says the Gemara, Tzanan Hasam, ein tarmin men hatolish al hamachuber. You cannot separate, when it comes to truma, something which is detached on something which is attached to the ground. Why? Says Rashi, because mechuber enochai betruma. Derashis digun chaksiv, made in the midgun. It has to be something that can be gathered into a pile, and therefore there's no din shem truma on something in which is attached. So therefore you cannot separate one for the other. The imtar min trumas truma, and therefore if you did, it doesn't help. So Ba'min and Rav Asim Rav Yochanan, he asked a question. Aymer, if a person says Paris arugazu telushim, these detached fruits, you truma al Paris arugazu mechubarim, should be a truma on this row of fruits which are attached. Or for that matter, Paris arugazu mechubarim yihu truma al Paris arugazu telushim. So, and then he says, however, he adds an extra word. He says likishi yitalshu, only at the time in which it will already be attached. Binitlushu, it becomes attached. Mahu, what's the din? Says Rashi, Shetei Truma Mafreya. Is it considered to be a Truma Mafreya? Mi havi kamakdish davar shel ba'olam lo. Since he's talking about something which is davar shel ba'olam now, But he's saying that when it does take place, I want it to work on Mafreya. So does that work? So I'm like, very interesting din. Anytime you have something which you have the ability to do, it's beyond to do, so it's not considered like your mechusar ma'isa. Therefore, Rashi says, ki hai shebiyado litloish. It's in his hands to detach it. You could separate it immediately. So therefore, if you would make it this type of a stipulation, itaka would work. If that's the case, we have a question based on our mission. He quotes a lot of it. Marry me after you convert, or I convert, after you or I become free, after your husband dies, after your sister dies, after chalitza is done, now I understand all of them. The reason is it's not in your hands. So what do you mean? To convert, it's in your hands. You can decide to convert. It's up to you. It's not that simple to convert. As we continue to Samach Beis and Beis, Ger Tzar Shleisha. In order to convert, you need 3 Yisraelim that are going to be there to see you immerse yourself into a mikvah. You're Mekabel all the mitzvahs. Kalos L'Chamura says it's brought down to Masechtas Yevamos. So my time and Mishpach Sibei Kedin Miyemar Dimizdakkule Hanitlos. Who says you're going to encounter these 3 people, and who says that in fact they're actually going to approve of this, that you're ready to convert? So therefore, it's not biyadai. It's not something that you can do just by yourself, because you need other people there to be able to participate in your conversion process. So Maskav Rav Abba Bar Mamo El Miyata Hanaisin Pruta L'Shiv Chasai. If a person gives a pruta to his maidservant, after I free you, it should work because it's in your hands to free her. Whereas that's true, kind of. The reason why it will not work is because when she is in the status of a shivcha, she's not considered to be like a das acheres, and therefore it's not considered to be mechusar ma'isa and nothing greater than this, because it's like mamish transformation of someone who is am daim l'chamor to a woman who is a bas das. So that's the reason why it will not be chal. I'm not sure why he would say this, but he says, I'm going to give you this, I want to marry you on after I divorce you. In the Kiddushin. No, how can Rabbi Yochanan have a Kiddushin? Because it's in his hands to divorce her, it's biyado the megarsher. So it should be a good Kiddushin. Where says 1 second. Nehid biyado l'garsha. Biyado l'kadsha. I understand it may be in, this is question 10, it may be in his hands to divorce her. That doesn't mean she has to marry her, because it's her free will. So Tivsha Deboy Rabbi Isha. Maybe you can answer based on that which was said by Rabbi Isha. Nice and shtei prutos Isha. Let's say you give 2 coins to an Isha. Ba'achas, with one of the coins, Armela, you say Hiskai Shali Hayoim, marry me today. Ba'achas Armela Hiskai Shali La'achar She'egar Sheikh. The second coin, he says, marry me after I divorce you. So Tivsha Minad will have Kiddushin. L'chara, that should not be a good Kiddushin, because it's not in his hands to marry her. No, Dilma, maybe ki hechi de tafsi kedushin hashda tafsi nami la'achar came. Says Rashi, Kloimer l'hachi masafkale l'Ravosh. This reason why it's a suffix. B'ha mishum de ikol memer Dilma svirlan. Maybe he holds migu since de boy lekedushe hashda mikadshe tafsi bo kedushin, that it works. So achazman. So also. L'achar zman mehashta of a mekanishes ishta l'chazia, to marry her he's not fit. L'mitvas kedushi shahar mekadeshes vein mendes, because he's already married. Okay. Let's quickly look at question TA29. Harmul isha haram mekadeshes l'achar shiskadesh shivchas l'achar shishtacharech maduin mekadeshes haram biyadoi was gayer l'shachara. So he said, okay, well, this is actually question 10. So he says, when it comes to a ger, you need 3 people. And when it comes to a shivcha, mikara behema v'hashadas acheres. V'havilei kimoi mechusar maisa. Ein taisis the economy time dein biyado l'kadsha. Right? It's also, seems like a good answer as well that the Gemara could have certainly have given. That was TA 29. Similar to question 10, but he also, again, says that a ger sarch shloisha. He needs 3 people. So that is the other explanation. Okay, weiter. Tanya kavasa Rav Yochanan. So we have a brayso in support of Rav Yochanan. It says Rashi, "Chol shebiyadai," anything which is in your hands, lav kamachosar ma'asadami. So what is that? It says ein tarmin min hatolish al mechober, that you cannot separate something detached to that which is attached. If you taram in trumasa truma, if you did, it doesn't work. Now ketzad, what exactly is the case? Amar paris arugazu telushim truma al paris arugazu mechuberes. So you said that these detached fruits are truma for the ones which are attached, and the attached fruits are not mechuyev and truma yet. Peros arugazu mechuberes, you truma al paris arugazu telushim. You said the other way around. Lo amar klum. It says meferish that you have said nothing. Aval, but amar, if you added likashi talshu v'nitlashu devarv kayamin, which is exactly what he says, because since it works because it's biyado for you to be able to do it. Yes, I can't even more than that. Omer Rabbi Lezer and Yaakov afil Omer Paris arugazu telushim yehu truma Paris arugazu mechubarin, or you say Paris arugazu mechuberes, you truma Paris arugazu telushin, and then he adds an important couple words likashi aviu shlish. Now when it's completely when it's detached, but even if it's still attached, but it's at least grown 1/3, the talshu and it's detached, aviu shlish. And you'll detach it even though it's only 1/3. That's also considered to work. The only time he says this din that it would work is by shachas, says Rashi. Shlish, even though the seeds only grew 1/3, it will feel dain lo livlu hachitim shachas miyahavi. At least it's something. V'roi liktsor, it's still fit to harvest. L'hachla behema, to feed your animals. The midi deminkar b'choshavhu. At least it's something in which is recognizable and has some value. So it's shachas has value. Avol ba'agam loi. However, it's an agam, says Rashi, she'enu ela smochim rakim. It's just like little sprouts. That doesn't do anything. That certainly will not work. Rabbi Yosef, no, feel ba'agam. Even in the agam, this statement would work. So my mashma hay agam lishna the butzlana. Who? How do we know it's a language of butzlana? Says Rashi, v'oyle min aretz shehu v'yeshbo kedei l'choif. It's can bend. So on this, Amar Belezeh Merkra halachoif ka'agmoin roishai, that it will bend over just like the head of this plant. Kamana zahadasanya. Who is this like? If your wife gives birth to a girl, I'll be married to her. Well, Yom Kum means nothing. If she's not pregnant. If she's pregnant, it does work. So come on. If we're holding like the sheet of Rabbi, says Rashi, Spirale, the Ukmal, or Rabbi Lezer and Yaakov b'Shachas, he says, talking about the case of Shachas, which is a 1/3, just like Shachas is actually a 1/3. Hachamu beres nami kishahukar ubra. So kishahukar ubra. It should only be once the child is recognizable. In other words, that she's like in her second trimester, just like she's finished her first of her 3. So it's like the fetus, the child has grown 1/3. So to like the shachas. But it doesn't say that. It says as long as she's muberis, which is mashma even if it's not hooker ha'uber. So ik Rav Yosef, if it's like Rav Yosef, alpha b'shalu hooker ubra. Even if not, the Ikadiyami, some say Rabbi Loyam, Rabbi Lezer, and Yaakov El B'Shachas Debei Kivsha. Maybe he only says regarding Kivsha, not just Shachas, but Shachas Debei Kivsha. It says Rashi Sadish Shel Beis Abal, that it grows with rainwater. Shad Megasham. Avol B'Shachas Debei Shakya, says Rashi Shel Sad Stei Beis Hashlochin Shetzrich Lahashkais, that you need to water it. Lo, oimer, diavida b'seida kilo mashka. It'll get destroyed if it's not washed. Hilchach kimishal b'ol yom klalhu. It's like it's not in your hands at all, because you have to do it. So low. So Rabbi Yosef Amar no, I feel b'shach is the beis shaki. Come on, as a hadasani hoyma chaveru imi do ish tachan nechem chadeshes li lomer klum. V'yom Rabbi Chanina lo shanu. If you say that regarding a woman that I'll marry your child is eloch she'eni ishto muberes. If she's not pregnant, I'll be ishto muberes. If she's pregnant, the verb kaim it does work. Come on, kishahukar ubra b'dira koil. It's in the situation where the child is hooker uber, then this will be in accordance to all opinions. Adkan.